This is J. Krishnamurti's sixth public talk in New Delhi, 1962.
Like this evening, if I may, go into the question of meditation. Because I feel that without understanding and knowing the full implication of meditation, the religious mind of which we have been talking about is not possible. As we said the other day, the religious mind contains the scientific spirit, but the scientific spirit, the scientific mind, does not include the religious mind. The scientific mind is partial, concerned with the superficial. But the religious mind is concerned with the totality of life. And without understanding and knowing the deep implication of meditation, it is not at all possible to come by that quality of mind which can go above and beyond the time. But before I go into that, I think it is important to understand the nature of mediocrity. Mediocrity is the petty mind, is the narrow, limited mind. The petty mind may and is generally concerned with the immediate. And the immediate may be projected into the future, but it is still the immediate. What the politicians do, though they are concerned about the future, they are concerned with the immediate in relation to the future. And most of us are also concerned with the immediate, the short view instead of the long view. And all our life is hedged about with the immediate concern. Not that the immediate is not important, but if the immediate becomes all important and one has totally forgotten the long view, then the immediate concern of bread and butter, of where to live, the job, the husband, wife, the petty thoughts, the shallow attempts, this limited, narrow, short view with which most people are concerned does lead to misery, does lead to sorrow and to strife and to misery. And this mediocrity of the petty mind invariably commits itself to some cause of action, to some form of belief, to some dogma. It is the nature of the petty mind to belong to something. It is the nature of this mediocrity which is rampant in the world at the present time, to be concerned out of proportion with society. And if I may point out, as I have done throughout all these talks, we are not discussing ideas. We are not verbalizing. We are not indulging in theory. We are dealing with actual facts. And the understanding of the facts is the only problem. As we said the other day, the escaping from the fact creates the problem, the running away. And when one talks about mediocrity in the shallow mind, we are not discussing as an idea, something to be broken down and to be replaced by a very clever, a mind that is extraordinarily active, wide, has immense depth. We are just showing that a mediocre mind is the soil in which sorrow grows. And as most of us are in sorrow of some kind or another, without breaking down the walls of pettiness, sorrow will invariably continue. And as we have pointed out before, listening is an art, to listen. Not only to what is being said, but to listen to everything in life, to the birds, to the incessant chatter of children, to the sound of a flute in the early morning, to listen without interpretation, without comparison, without condemnation, just to listen. And in that listening, you will discover for yourself, if you do so listen attentively, you will discover for yourself that you're observing, though the speaker is describing, you are observing your own state of mind, the actual movement of your own thought and feeling. And so we are not indulging in ideas, in ideations, in ideals. To a man who is concerned with facts, that person has no ideals. And we are concerned with facts. We are concerned that there is mediocrity, pettiness. Not that someone else is petty, but each one. And so one has to be aware of oneself, applied to oneself. The highest form of criticism is self-criticism. But we do not criticize. We merely see and avoid. The critical capacity is to be aware of the total implication. And as we are talking about mediocrity, pettiness, shallowness, please be aware of it. If you care to in yourself, and if you care to intellectually, which is of no value at all. That's merely to be verbally aware. And verbally being aware of mediocrity doesn't bring about a change in the mediocre mind. The petty mind commits itself to some course of action. Social action, economic, political, or so-called religious action, or the acquisition of knowledge. But it is always committing itself, it's always belonging to something. And the desire to belong is a psychological phenomena of an intellectual mind. It belongs to the Communist Party and then denies it later. It belongs to some kind of a dogmatic religious activity, which later on it discovers and denies. You will observe, if you have taken note of it in the world, that the so-called intellectual people belong either in groups or singly to some form of theory, to some form of utopia, to some committed religiosity. And the desire to belong is the desire for permanence. Please follow all this, because we are inquiring into the process of meditation. This is part of that meditation. Because you all belong to something. You are not an entity alone, integral. You are put together by society, by the environmental influence. And that compels you to belong. If one is anxious to bring about a change in the world, one belongs to something. And all of us do belong to various forms of beliefs, dogmas, and activities. Because in that, we not only expand ourselves, but by identifying ourselves with the thing to which we are committed, we feel intellectually, physically, emotionally, acting as a total entity in a world that is disintegrating. And without understanding this urge to commit oneself to a particular course of action, whatever it be, a particular thought, a particular idea, a particular technological knowledge, to belong to something is surely an indication of pettiness. And a petty mind then proceeds to inquire into the immensity of life. Having committed itself to something, then it proceeds to inquire from that commitment what it is all about. Now we are to find out what is meditation, which is really a most marvelous thing, which is nothing to do with romanticism. or ideation, speculation, or seeing visions and evoking all kinds of sensations, which are all utterly immature. This urge to belong, to commit oneself to a method, to a system, must be understood. So, as most of us, if you will permit me to say so without any disrespect, as most of us are mediocre. Even the most talented are mediocre, because their talent is partial, limited, narrow. Because a gift doesn't lift you out of mediocrity. A painter, he may paint the most beautiful pictures, but he's still a mediocre person, because he hungers after fame, after the recognition of society. He wants to be rich, known, famous, which all indicate the petty, shallow, mediocre mind, though gifted with a talent. And most of us, unfortunately, have neither great talent nor great capacity of thought, and perhaps it's just as well that we have, because then we are eager to find out, to search out, to inquire. But the man who has committed himself to something, he refuses to inquire into anything except to proceed along the lines he has chosen. So, to find out what is the meditative mind, there must be no commitment. Which is quite a difficult thing. Because you are committed either to prayer, to repetition of words, or to contemplate upon something. You may be committed to a symbol. And most of us are committed to symbols, not to reality. Because reality is much too dangerous, much too destructive. It cannot, the petty mind cannot contain it. Therefore, it seeks symbols and has committed itself to the symbol of the church, of Christianity, the symbol of the Hindu, the symbol of the Muslim, and so on. Symbol, the word, the shadow, the unreal. Not the fact, but the image graven by the mind or by the hand, in the temple or in the bath or in a church. Please observe this for yourself. See it in yourself. And being committed, then you proceed to meditate. Then you seek methods, systems to arrive at what you think is the permanent. What you think is God, is what you think is the most extraordinary vision. What you think is conditioned by your past, by the society in which you live. And of course, if you are a Christian, you have extraordinary visions of the Christ. You project that vision. If you are a Hindu, you have your own images, your own vision. And to you, when you get a vision, an image, project it, and now gives you a certain sensation, you call that meditation. Which, if you examine, is utterly immature, because it's your own desire seeking fulfillment in an unreality which has no basis, except your own thought, which is conditioned by the past, by the society in which you live, by the experience which you have gathered through that condition. So, meditation is not seeking vision or indulging in prayer. Prayer implies supplication, begging, asking, demanding. When do you demand? When do you seek? When do you search out? Only when you are in trouble, when you are in pain, when you are in misery, when you are in conflict. That means what? You want comfort. Comfort, which you get at home. You want psychological comfort. So you pray. And unfortunately, psychologically, prayer is answered. Because you do find comfort. That comfort is awakened, has found itself in an idea which you have projected. Which you have projected. An idea, a belief, a dogma. And in that you take shelter, comfort. It's like a person taking shelter in a storm. In a shelter made up of words, ideas. And by holding on to that, having committed himself to that, he hopes to find shelter. And he does. But shelter in words, not in reality. Not in something that has substance. And with that we are satisfied. So meditation is not prayer, nor the desire to find truth. A petty mind seeking God will find God of its own pettiness. You understand, sir? If I have a petty mind, small, narrow, shallow mind, full of ambition, greed, envy, jealousy of another, and I think about God, my God is equally petty, stupid. And with that stupidity we are satisfied. Now, we are inquiring into the process of meditation. And to inquire, you must first deny, you must negatively approach it. That is, to put away what is false. Put away something which is no reality except a projected reality of one's own desire, of one's own fancy. So, through negative thinking, we're going to find out what is the positive. But the negative thinking is essential, because that is the highest form of thinking, not the positive thinking. The positive thinking is the imitative process, moving from the known to the known. And therefore we'll never find out if you merely proceed from known to the known, which is so-called positive process, you will never find out for yourself what is real meditation. Because the things that have been put forward as meditation is so utterly immature, childish. It has no psychological basis at all. So if you are serious enough, that is, if you want to go into this question of meditation right to the end, not just play with it, and you must meditate. As you go to the office, as you breed family, as you beget children, there must be meditation. Because it is the way, it breaks down the wall of pettiness. It breaks down the wall of respectability, imitation. And an absolutely free mind is necessary. Right at the beginning, not at the end. So negatively we are thinking out what is meditation. It is not contemplation. That is to think about an idea, to contemplate upon something. Generally on a symbol again, or on a phrase which you have read in so-called sacred books, which are not sacred at all. They are just books like any other. And you pick a phrase and you think about it, which is to contemplate. That is, you don't inquire the entity that contemplates into the place. That entity is conditioned. That entity is petty, narrow, jealous. And that entity inquires, contemplates upon something. So meditation is not contemplation. Meditation is not prayer. Meditation is not the pursuit of a particular method system. Because the method, the system, conditions the mind. And what the method system offers you will get. But that what you get will be a dead thing. It's like having a dull, stupid mind that is disciplined through a system and refuses to think anymore. It has lost all pliability, all sensitivity. It is no longer fresh. So, meditation is not a system to be practiced. Meditation is not a process of disciplining the mind. Please follow all this, just intellectually if you can't do it actually. If you do it actually, then you can go very far. And I'm going to go very far into it this evening. With those who have the capacity to travel light far freely. So it is none of these things, nor is it discipline. What does discipline imply? Discipline implies conformity, imitation, adjustment to a pattern, to an idea, to an ideal. And therefore, control implies suppression. Which does not mean you indulge in what you want to do. We are inquiring into the whole machinery of discipline. So where there is suppression, there is contradiction. Where there is contradiction, there is conflict. And effort. And a mind that makes an effort to achieve, except mechanical things, A mind that makes an effort to achieve what it calls God, truth, purpose, and end, is a dead mind. You want an extraordinary pliable mind, a mind highly sensitive. And you cannot be sensitive if you are committed. If you are caught in a system invented by man through his fear. So, meditation then is none of these things. But you must lay a foundation for meditation. If it is none of these things, it is not. Obviously, it's too immature even to think about these obviously psychological tricks that we have played upon ourselves through centuries. But you must lay the right foundation. Right foundation is not to be ambitious. Not to have envy. Not to accept any form of authority. Therefore, the laying of the foundation is at the highest importance, because without that you can't build. A house cannot be built on a foundation without a foundation. It topples over. To be without ambition, without authority, without envy, without fear and jealousy and all that, must be a thing that must be seen immediately and not cultivated as an idea. And this is where the difficulty lies. You understand the question, sir? The question is this. If you say, I will lay the foundation, I will not be envious, I'm just taking that one thing, one brick. If you say, I will not be envious, because you intellectually have seen that it's not profitable, that in it involves strain, struggle, pain, mere intellectual acceptance does not absolve you from envy. Nor saying, I will use an ideal in order to get rid of envy. That is to say, I will not be envious. That is, I will not imply sky. Please follow this. When you say, I shall not be envious, you have introduced the factor of time. That is, you say, I will not be envious. It will take me time. In a few years or sometime later, I will get rid of envy. And when you introduce time, the continuity of envy goes on. Please understand this. You don't get rid of it. You are still envious when you say it should not be. So envy has to be cut immediately. And that is, that you can be cut immediately only when you see the thing. When you see envy, I'm going to go into that. The see. As I said, we do not see, nor do we listen. We never see because we have opinions about what we see. When you are envious, acquisitive, and the whole structure of society is based on envy. And we are educated to be envious. When you consider envy, you justify it. You say, how am I to live in this world without envy? So, you approach the fact, which is envy, by having an opinion about it already. The word envy is already condemnatory. So you approach it with condemnation. So you have to be free of the world. It is not complicated what I am talking about. It is very simple. It is really extraordinarily simple if you listen to it. Listen. If you try even intellectually to listen. Because the word is not the thing. The word is the symbol. And we are brought up in symbols, not brought up with actualities, not with what is the fact. So, envy is not a thing to be postponed. Either you are or you are not. And a man who wants to meditate, go into this question of very profoundly into meditation, has no time to postpone envy. It has to cease completely, totally. As you must also be without ambition. Because a man who is ambitious has no love. They may talk about peace, brotherhood. Those people who have achieved through their ambition, position, prestige and power. But they have no love. They may have sympathy, pity, organizing capacity for social action. But they have no love. And a mind which is envious, which is comparing, wanting, seeking, power, position, authority, has no love. You may read about love in the Gita, in the Upanishads, and all the books, but you haven't loved. Therefore, those books are absolutely valueless. Because love comes not through books. When you no longer are envious, when you are no longer ambitious, when you are no longer seeking power, when you are no longer slave to the morality of society. Morality of society is concerned only with one thing, which is sexual. But society is not concerned whether ambitious, greedy, envious, following this or that. So, am I to meditate? You must lay the foundation. Not during the days to come, but immediately. And that is very difficult. That is the real crux of this matter. Because we want to be ambitious. We want to be envious. And then we talk about God, truth, and all the rest of the bilge. So your gods, your truths have no value as long as there is no foundation, when you are no longer caught in the machinery of stupid society and its morality, which means the mind then is free from ambition, greed, envy, power, and all the things that man seeks, which society has encouraged from his childhood. Then there is freedom. Not tomorrow, not at the end of life, but right at the beginning, now. That is the beginning of meditation. Because that implies self-knowing. Not the supreme self. There is no supreme self for a petty mind, except the thing it has invented which it calls the supreme self. So when the mind is free, not tomorrow but actually immediately on the instant, of envy, greed, acquisitiveness, the search for fame and power, then you begin to meditate. But you say, to such a mind, seeking stops. I hope you are following all this, at least some of you are. Because when you say you are seeking, what are you seeking? You are seeking something you already know, otherwise you won't seek it. You can't seek something you do not know. You can seek something which is recognizable. And recognition is of the past. Recognition is a part of the process of knowing, of knowledge, that is of the known. So, when you deny totally ambition, greed, envy, authority, and therefore you have become, through self-knowing, a light to yourself, which is not an authority. Then, such a mind, being free and uncommitted, not seeking, because if there is nothing to seek, how can a petty mind seek the immense? It can only translate the immense in terms of its own shallow pettiness. Therefore, the mind must be completely be free of these, and therefore the mind becomes quiet. It hasn't to seek peace of mind, which is an absurdity. It's like the people talking about generosity and not corruption, keeping their hands in another man's pocket. There must be complete disassociation from society, which does not mean that you leave society, go to a forest or become a hermit. That's merely change of clothes, change of habitation. But to completely disassociate yourself so that you become alone. The mind then is uninfluenced by society. So it is capable of standing completely alone. and then you proceed to meditate. But then you will notice the brain, which is the result of time, which is the result of all the animal instinct, biological, which is the result of the accumulated knowledge of society, of the nation, the race, the group, the family. That brain becomes extraordinarily quiet, because it's no longer seeking, it's no longer frightened, it's no longer pursuing an idea, it's no longer craving for comfort, for security, for permanence. Therefore the brain becomes extraordinarily quiet. And it must be quiet, because any movement of the brain which is compelled by the past, if it projects, it creates illusion. Therefore it must be completely still. And this stillness is not acquired. You cannot acquire stillness, you cannot practice stillness. Because a brain that practices stillness is a dead mind, a dead brain. How can you force the brain, which is so extraordinarily active, and it must be sensitive? How can you make it become quiet? You can destroy it, and you do destroy it. By denying the world and escaping to some form of other world, destroying beauty and thinking God is nothing but something else. So a sensitive mind cannot be disciplined. It must be sensitive. But if you understand the whole significance of discipline, then there is an extraordinary discipline which is the outcome of freedom, which is not controlled. The discipline that you practice is out of fear, out of punishment, out of reward, out of gaining something which you want. If you do practice a discipline. But such discipline makes the brain dull, insensitive. So, life is not merely, doesn't belong to the hermit or to the sannyasi or to the politician or to the saintly politician. Life is something extraordinarily vast, immense, immeasurable. And a petty mind cannot possibly understand. And the petty mind is essentially the ambitious mind, the greedy mind, the acquisitive mind. And the moment, the second you cease to be ambitious, in every form, even the ambition to find out God, the moment you are broken, your brain becomes astonishingly quiet. Then the brain being quiet, without any movement of desire, because the desire has been understood, when we have understood the imaginary vision belonging to this and that, all that has been completely set aside, forgotten, then you are no longer caught by the known. Because most of us move from the known to the known. That's our daily activity. All your life you spend in the office or in the technical work or from the known to the known. Your mind thinks in terms of the known. And therefore is never free from the known. And the meditative mind is free from the known. That means the word, the symbol, the idea, the belief, the dogma, the projections from the past. So when the brain is free from the past, or rather, when the brain is quiet, and therefore the mind, the totality of the whole consciousness becomes completely still. The totality of consciousness, not just one part. Because it's completely alone, uninfluenced, it no longer belongs to any society, any group, any caste, any religion, any dogma. It's finished with all that. Therefore there is complete stillness of the mind. And in that stillness there is neither the observer nor the observed. Because the observer, as we explained the other day, is the result of the reaction of thought. The observer, the thinker, is the reaction of thought. You will think it all out if you are interested afterwards. So there is no state of experiencing, which is very important to understand. Experience, I'll put it very quickly and briefly. Experience is that state when there is response to a challenge. Every response to a challenge produces an experience. And that experience is the result of your conditioning. If you are a Hindu, with your background, you respond to a challenge, even the smallest challenge, not the enormous challenges of life, little challenges of every day. You respond from the background of your Hinduism, of your conditioning. And that conditioning, that reaction is experience. So, a mind that is experiencing is reacting. And therefore is never free mind. Therefore, the still mind is not seeking experience of any kind. And if it is not seeking, and therefore completely still, without any movement from the past, and therefore free from the known, then you will find, if you have gone that far, there is a movement of the unknown, which is not recognizable, which is not translated, which cannot be put into words. Then you will find there is a movement which is of the immense. That movement is of the timeless. But there is no time, nor there is a space to be something in which to be achieved, to experience, to gain. Such a mind knows what it is, what is creation. Not the creation of the painter, the poet, the verbalizer, but that creation which has no motive, which has no expression. That creation is love and death. And this whole beginning, from the beginning to the end, is the way of meditation. And a man who would meditate must understand himself. And without knowing yourself, you cannot go far. However much you may attempt to go far, you can go only so far as your own projection, which is very near, which is very close, which doesn't lead anywhere. So meditation is that process of laying the foundation instantly, immediately, and bringing about naturally, without any effort, that state of stillness. And only then there is a mind which is beyond time, beyond experience, beyond knowing.